Alright, now that the gum trag's dried and I got that edge all nicely burnished, it's time to do some stitching. This is braided polyester cord, and I picked a color that I thought would go well with the brown on that holster. I didn't want to use just black or white. I thought that this beige cord would go well with this. So that's what I'm going to use. Okay, the way I do this is I feed it through the eye of the needle. And then I bring the needle over and I put it against my counter, my table here, and I pierce the thread with the needle and then pull it over the, so it pierces through the needle. And bring it down, and pop it over the eye, and that's locked on now. I'll go ahead and do the other end and get started with the stitching. First, let me cut this a little bit neater. This is always the hard part for me. Through the eye of the needle, pierce it, pull it down, pop it over the eye, boink, locked on. How much thread do I use? About that much. I don't usually really measure it, and it hasn't really come back to bite me yet, but there are ways that you can measure and see exactly how much you need and calculate it and all, but I usually just pull out what seems to be about the right amount. Now the holes, like I said, I've had to punch them all the way through with my awl, and even though the holes are all the way through, they're going to close up a little bit, make life a little bit difficult for me. So I'm going to go through and go ahead and I'll put the awl through and give it a little bit of a wiggle just to open them up a little bit more. Because they do close up. They're not drilled through, so no material has been removed. They're punched through, as you saw me doing earlier. So the fibers are just basically like pushed aside so you can get the needle through, and then the fibers close back up on it. And let me go ahead and get started with this. The holes are going up and away from me. I got a feeling I'm going to need this. I may need this. So what I'm going to do, since I'm starting away from me, and I'm going to be stitching toward me, and the holes are going up and away, is I'll go in one side, go ahead, do the crossover thingy, then this second needle will go underneath through the same hole. Oh, that's snug. Give it a little bit of a tug to make sure I didn't pierce it. Now, instead of casting over, I'm going to be casting under. And I thought I was going to need that. That does two things. It puts the it angles the thread so it looks good, and it puts a little half hitch in the center, which I think adds to the strength of it, in that if the thread does get damaged, it won't be so I'm gonna mess that up every time, aren't I? It won't want to unravel so much. It'll have more resistance to unraveling. And being that this is a strong braided polyester cord, I don't think that's going to be a problem to begin with. Let's see, underneath. Now I don't want to strangle it, just snug it in there. And we'll just keep going like that. Now the thread is settling very nicely into this groove. And the groove is there to prevent rubbing and damaging the thread. Go, yeah, under. Now I'm just going to go ahead and continue doing this. I'll still give it a wiggle. Open those holes up a little bit. Whoop, do it again. And when I get closer to finishing, we'll come back to you. I'll turn the camera back on. We're almost to the end of our stitching here. And I keep almost casting in the wrong direction. Well, usually I start toward me and stitch away and cast over. In this case, though, I gotta start away from me and cast toward me, or stitch towards me and cast under. So that's kind of throwing me off, but yeah, I just need to pay attention to what I'm doing. Give it a little snug, and it drops right into that stitch groove. Got a couple more, and then I'm going to go ahead and back stitch, and that'll lock it off. And then cut it and melt the ends. Now we're on the back stitching and where I started my stitching at. I generally like to start my stitching at the point where I think there's going to be the most stress. And I'm sure that the mouth of a holster is going to have more stress than the bottom of the holster. Even though locking it off is plenty strong, I just want to be that much sure. Much more sure? Surer? It's going to be good and strong. Now I'm down at the end here, so I'll go ahead and take it out and start my back stitch. Okay, you can see the stitch line there. I'll go into my first hole. Right there. And this one I'll go ahead and bring all the way through. Oh, these are smooth jawed. These are actually for beading. They came with a beading tool set, but they're perfect for this. Snug that in. Make sure that's snug. And then this one is going in on this side, and it goes over top of the thread I just put through. There we go. Just get it started. Push it on in. And see that I pierced my thread, so we'll start over. Keep that bias toward the top of the hole. There we go. pull this one on through. There we go. Make sure I don't get tangled there. That would be messy. Pull it good and snug. Snug. And do the next one. This one gets biased toward the bottom of the hole, because that's the way the stitch is laying in it. There we go. It should be tight. Snug that in. Take this next one. Yeah, this one goes toward the top of the hole. And that looks good. And yank that one on through. Okay, let's do that again. This one goes toward the bottom. Just to match the thread that's already in there. Pull that on through. And that's the last time for this side, because I've gone through 3 holes here, and on the other side I'm going to go through a total of 4 holes, and that will be more than enough to keep this from coming loose. See, he wants to go there, so that's where he can go. There we go. Push that on through. Make sure I don't get tangled here. This guy should go up through here. Pull that good and snug. And then one more through the front and into the back. And that's that. Cut these off and burn them. Again, I'm tilting it away so I don't scorch the leather. And that's the stitching done. Another thing that I'll do sometimes, just because I think it makes it look prettier. As soon as I find my scrap, that'll work. Because I'll go ahead and whap it some. That'll help close the holes up, which I believe makes for a stronger joint. Just gotta be careful not to hit your fingers. And there it is, all stitched up. My next step is going to be to form this some, because this guy still has to fit in there. but actually that's pretty good right now. Well, yeah, there we go. That almost has it. But you're getting a general idea here. And there we go. That's how the gun's going to fit. Actually, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to wet it. I'm going to form the belt loop so it fits the belt better. And I'm going to form the holster itself so it fits the gun better. Then I'm going to let it dry. So let me go get some water on this thing and I'll be right back.